as a bot.
Okay, so in 2016, Donald Trump flipped Representative Tim Ryan's home county in Ohio from blue to red for the first time in 44 years on the promise of bringing jobs back. But they recently lost 4,500 jobs and $3 billion to the local economy with the closure of a major automotive plant. Okay? So, is this Democrat ready to take on Trump? Let's ask him. Please welcome Congressman Tim Ryan. Okay. You can get into that whole thing I just said in a second about how the plant closed and everything, but you've run for office before.
Yes.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
This is not your first day at the rodeo.
No.
So are you going to run again now?
So, this country, as you all know, we talk about every single day here, is divided.
Yeah.
And if I can just say that this has been going on a long time. Our country's been divided for a long time. And I can go back into the late 1970s when my father-in-law lost his job when Youngstown Sheet and Tube closed. He was off for 13 months, just bought a new house. And go back 20 years, my cousin Donnie, who worked at the local plant, his last act at the factory was to unbolt the machine, put it in a crate, and send it to China. And I can go back just a few weeks where my daughter called me crying from school because her friend was crying to her. Her dad just got transferred at the local General Motors plant. The kids had to move.
Yeah.
And my daughter called me and she said, "You got to do something." And I said, "I'm going to do something. And I'm going to run for president of the United States. And we're going to make sure this doesn't happen anymore."
All right. So you're going to run. All right. I love that you make it official right here on The View.
Right here.
Your first time ever on the show. Well done, sir.
Thank
you.
Why not?
Listen, if you get lucky, you might get 2 baby bassinets.
Yes, bassinets. There is something to the View bump, though. Not this type of bump, but like a campaign bump. What's going to make you different? Because as Joy said, for the first time since 1972, Trump was the first Republican president to win your county. You've talked about a coastal domination. There's been a coastal domination of the Democratic Party where they've missed the Rust Belt states. That's something that Clinton did very well with. Joe Biden's known to connect there. What will make you different?
I think the same thing. I understand that legacy of job loss, but in the last 17, 18, 19 years in public office, I've been working really hard to figure out what the heck we do next. And so I understand where we need to go. The country's so divided right now that we can't get a plan together. And we've got to make sure, the first thing we got to do is unify. But there are so many industries out there growing. Wind and solar, growing at 25 to 30% a year. Electric vehicles, for example, there's 2 million made today. By 2030, there's going to be 30 million electric vehicles. I want those vehicles made in the United States. I want the batteries made in the United States. I want the charging stations made in the United States. And right now, China dominates 40% of the electrical vehicle market.
Isn't that exactly what Trump said, though, running in 2016?
Well, here's what Trump thought. Here's Trump's problem, among several. He plays the old school politics. He wants to go back to the old economy. He's talking about old steel mills and old coal mines. I'm saying, where are our kids going to work? And how do we come together, government, the best of government, the best of the workforce, the best of the free enterprise system, and dominate the electric vehicle market so we are creating jobs? And then at the end of the day, cut the worker in on the deal. Trump has been full of promises and hasn't delivered on anything. He's forgotten us. And I will tell you.
Tax cuts, that's what he did.
Well, that's been the answer for everything since 1980. And what's happened since 1980? Average wages have been stagnant. Healthcare costs have gone up. The average person, 40 to 50% of the average family in the United States could not withstand a $400 to $500 emergency.
Yeah.
That is a national tragedy.
We saw some of that in the shutdown, that how desperate people were living hand to mouth.
But then how come 70% of the country say that they feel like we're in good economic times right now?
It's not where I come from. I will tell you that. And I don't.
That's the thing. You come from the middle of the country, and I went to school at Notre Dame in Indiana,
all right.
so I'm pretty familiar with the middle of the country. And most people describe you as a centrist Democrat. You're a recreational hunter.
What?
Yeah.
All right. Me and you and the duck blind. Let's do it.
You know, I mean, you were an NRA member up until 4 years. Yeah. Up until,
That's where you lose me.
right now, but you were an NRA member. Up until 4 years ago, you were pro-life. But how do you win over progressives within the Democratic Party?
I've got a really long record around progressive politics, especially when it comes to the economy. Voted against the Bush tax cuts, voted against the Trump tax cuts, believe in investment into lifting people up, closing the opportunity gaps that exist in our society. So I'm a progressive who knows how to talk to working class people, and I know how to get elected in working class districts, because at the end of the day, the progressive agenda is what's best for working families. And to go back to the original question, it's like we got to go there and tell people why we're the best party. We stopped going to rural America. We stopped going to these working class towns.
Yeah.
I was in Iowa last week. Farmers have not made a profit in 5 years.
Oh.
There is a recession in rural America. Democrats need to go there and explain to them why the progressive agenda is the agenda for them.
But Congressman Ryan, I used to talk about you when I worked on Fox News as someone who was a Democratic centrist. We're fist bumping about things that we have in common. I think that's great. I think it's all things that we should focus on, things that we come together on. I understand you're progressive, but I always interpreted you as not being as progressive as the majority of the candidates in the field. And I think you're going to get attacked by people within your own party. You tried to challenge Nancy Pelosi as party leader. I don't think your problem is winning over the Midwest and places where you're from. How are you going to win over, the progressive wing of the party who thinks that the Green New Deal is the most important challenge for Americans right now?
Well, I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be for the things I've always been for. And I think that most progressives are going to see that as a candidate that can not only advance a progressive agenda, but also win. I can win Western PA, I can win Ohio, I can win Michigan, I can win Wisconsin, and that means Donald Trump is going back to Mar-a-Lago full time.
Oh, God, no. I'm from Florida. Can we please keep him in Bedminster?
But if I could just say real quickly, what we have to talk about, and I think when people say Tim's a centrist or Tim's a moderate, I believe in the free enterprise system. I believe that we need to reform government. We can't just go ask people for tax dollars to go dump into a broken healthcare system where we spend 2.5 times as much money as every other industrialized country and get worse results. A broken food system that has got half the country with diabetes or pre-diabetes. A broken environmental system. A broken economic system. Education system. We can't just go ask people to pay more in taxes and dump them into these old systems. So I'm a reform-minded Democrat that believes that if we're going to green the economy, you need the innovation and the power of the free market to do that. I'm against concentration of wealth, against income inequality, against greed, but you can't be against the free enterprise system.
Well, you're kind of like Joe Biden a little bit to me, aren't you?
We're going to talk about Joe Biden when we come back.
Watch.
Your wife is in the audience.
We'll be right back. We'll talk about Joe.
Ever since Daryl's family started using Gain Flings,